Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Inclusion Starts Now. Today, you are going to be learning about a new disability with me, and it is called TSC. And we are learning from a parent named Amy who is going to share her experience of how they found the diagnosis, how they supported their child, and then, like, what's next, what they're still doing to advocate and educate people on this disability. Um, and I would love to take this time to talk to you, you amazing listeners, about what we can keep doing to educate people on disability awareness. And really, one of those things is reading. I read so much. I love fiction and nonfiction and kids' books and adult books. And I love learning about other people's perspectives because it helps me learn how to be more empathetic for other people's, I don't know, life way of being. But that is also what encouraged me to write my three children's books, Tyler the Snake, Dallas the Dog, and Miguel the Chameleon. And all of them have disability representation with the message of inclusion. And they all have the language to support you when educating your students or educating your kids or educating your parents or grandparents, who's ever, I don't know, your roommate. Um, all of my books are only sold on my website as I self-publish them, and they are all living inside my house. So when you buy them, you are literally purchasing it from me. I sign it, I throw in a sticker, and I send it from my own personal USPS store. So I hope you can learn something interesting during this conversation too. And if you have anything that you feel like has not been talked about on this podcast and would like to be a guest, let me know. Enjoy. Thank you, Amy, so much for being here. Can you give us a fun little introduction?
Yeah, I'm Amy Bredesen. I live in South Carolina, right near Hilton Head. And I have a daughter who's 18 now. She has a rare disease called Tuberous Sclerosis Complex. For short, we call it TSC. Um, it's a genetic disease that causes tumors to grow in the vital organs. So often in the eyes, skin, um, heart, brain, kidneys, and lungs. So it can be pretty devastating. Most people live an average lifespan, but unfortunately, some people die from seizures. It's one of the leading genetic causes of epilepsy and
Hmm.
autism. Um, so my daughter has the epilepsy part. Well, she's been seizure free for almost 11 years now, so that's awesome. But she doesn't have autism. She has ADHD. But a lot of people have developmental delays and just a lot of health problems from it. Um,
And is that
so
because of the tumors? Like the tumors are kind of like affecting like
yeah,
developmentally?
the ones in the brain, yeah. So, and there are like three different
Interesting.
kinds of growths in the brain. There's brain tumors called SAGAs, subependymal giant cell astrocytoma.
Wow.
And then there are a couple of other kinds. One of them is they're called tubers because they're tube shaped, and that's where the name of the disease comes from. But yeah, unfortunately, it causes a lot of behavioral problems and problems learning and yeah.
So I guess I know nothing about tumors. Um, so are there like different kinds of tumors? Because I feel like I was trying to look into TSC and they're like non-cancerous, right?
Right. Yeah. And some people call that benign, but I hate that because they're not they're
Because
not
they're like
like
still doing something.
they still cause problems. Yeah. So I think it's just the tubers that cause seizures. And then I don't know, like some people, unfortunately, with the Saga tumors, will get hydrocephalus. Is that how you say it? um, water on the brain.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the the causes of death can be SUDEP, sudden unexpected death in epilepsy.
Hmm.
So unfortunately, we've seen several people die over the years, even little kids. So it's pretty heartbreaking anytime that happens. But other than the seizures, most people are able to live a normal lifespan. Um, my daughter's affected pretty mildly as far as her brain. She had the seizures for a few years, and we got her on medication for it, and she hasn't had one in almost 11 years now. But some of our friends have hundreds or even thousands of seizures a day. Um,
Yeah.
there's one particular kind of seizures called infantile spasms. I don't know if you have heard of that
No.
before, but that one um, can be really damaging, can cause developmental delays, and yeah, it's scary.
Yeah. Um, okay, I was gonna start writing down questions because I just feel like you gave me so much information. So I know I sent you questions, but I already have extra questions.
Okay, go
Um,
for it.
okay. So first, I guess, how do you treat the tumors? So like, because I feel like usually like when people say it's like a benign tumor, they're like, well, if it's uncomfortable, then we'll get rid of it, or like how do you treat different, like I guess like what is more common for people with TSC who get tumors? Like what would be a common treatment for them?
Well, for the brain tumors, a lot of people have a surgery called a tuber resection, I think, but I don't really know that much about the surgeries because Chloe thankfully didn't have to go that route. Um, her tumor was inoperable, but thankfully, they came out with a new drug. It's a chemotherapy pill that she takes. She started it in 2012, and it's made a huge difference in her life. Um,
Yeah.
and it was prescribed for her brain tumor, and um, she has MRIs of her brain and abdomen once a year. And so, after a year on the medicine, we went back, and her nephrologist looked at her kidneys and was shocked because he had no idea that it would help shrink the cysts on her kidneys. Um,
Yeah. Were those painful?
no,
No?
no, we had no idea there was anything going
Yeah.
on with our little girl until she started having seizures. And most people who meet her, they don't know. It's kind of an invisible illness for her.
Yeah. How old was she
So
when she started getting seizures?
she was 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um, my husband went in to check on the kids one night, like we do every night when they were little, just make sure everybody's asleep and everything. And he noticed some drool on her pillow. He was like, well, that's weird. And then just kept thinking about it. And for some reason, he knew that if you have seizures in your sleep, it can cause you to drool. So he mentioned that, and I was
Wow.
like, no, no way, no, she's not having seizures. And we just thought about it like the whole day and the next day, and then um, that was that was on a Sunday morning when he told me. I thought, I saw something weird last night, and then Monday morning, she was sitting at the table eating her breakfast, and she was eating oatmeal, and it was just like coming out one side of her mouth, like just like she had had a stroke or something. And we had no
Yeah.
idea what it was, but we were like, okay, that's concerning. And I talked to my friend who's a nurse, and she said, yeah, you need to get her in to the doctor right away. So we took her to the pediatrician, and thankfully, my husband, that was like when people started first having smartphones. So he had
Yeah.
his phone camera, and pulled it out and got a video. If we didn't have that, the doctor probably wouldn't have really taken us seriously because we were like the way we were describing it. It didn't seem like a seizure to us, but I didn't know anything about them at that point. Her seizures were always on the right side of her face, and it would be like her eye and her mouth would twitch. So it was really subtle, but
Yeah.
something was going on. So he showed the video to the pediatrician, and she was like, "Yeah, that's definitely a seizure." So we had to take her to the children's hospital, which is about 2 hours from us.
Oh.
And we were there for 4 days. They did an EEG and an MRI, and they found the tubers in her brain, and that's one of the signs of it. So they checked her kidneys, her eyes, her skin. Turns out she has these white spots all over her called ash leaf spots, which are common with TSC. But we didn't even notice because she's really fair
Mm.
skin, and you can tell, like in the summer when she gets a little bit tan, you can see it more. But we had no idea that that was
Yeah.
anything. And there was one spot on her back that I asked the doctor about when she was a baby, and the doctor said, "Oh, that's just a birthmark. Don't worry about it." But you know, maybe if we had seen a dermatologist at that point, that doctor would have noticed because they're really good at picking up on the disease. A lot of people are diagnosed by their dermatologists, and that
Oh.
the skin tumors, um, or lesions, maybe you want to call them, um, I don't I don't think they're really dangerous or anything. I guess there's another kind of skin condition people get on their faces that it's called angiofibromas, and they can be like all over, and they can be like fairly large, like a mole or something. Um, but if you see in pictures a lot of kids who have it, it almost looks like they just have freckles.
Yeah.
But it's like in a butterfly pattern, they call it. Um, so Chloe, I only noticed a couple of little tiny red dots starting to develop on her skin after she was diagnosed, because then I was like, paying attention, looking out for any signs. And I'm pretty sure that was an angiofibroma, but the medicine she started taking for the brain tumor actually made those go away.
Mm.
And if she had tumors in her heart or her kidneys or anything at that point, it would have probably shrunk them too.
Yeah.
But so we left the hospital in that first visit, knowing she had epilepsy, a brain tumor. She had cysts all over her kidneys. She had a tumor in one of her eyes,
Wow.
the marks all over her skin that you could barely see, um, and high blood pressure. One of the days we were there, a nurse came in to check her and said, "Is her blood pressure always this high?" And I was like, "What? No, not another thing. Come on."
Yeah.
And it was really high, like I want to say it was like 165 over 80 or something. And
Yeah.
at that point, she was 3 years old. It should have been like 95 over 60 or something like that.
Yeah.
So she could have had a stroke if we hadn't taken her in for the seizures.
Yeah.
Um,
And at that point, did you know that the tumors like weren't cancerous or like 'cause, like did you know
yeah,
that like were you leaving with the diagnosis of TSC?
yeah, we did. And it was really, it was really scary because we were there for 4 days, just me and my husband and Chloe, and a whole bunch of doctors. Like 10 people walked in one morning at like 7 a.m. when they were doing their rounds. And I just like, my heart dropped. I knew that something was wrong for all the doctors and residents and everybody to be there. And they said, your daughter has this rare disease called Tuberous Sclerosis Complex. And um, they told us, all of the horrible things about it. But they said, but Chloe is not going to develop autism or develop, any developmental delays like what I don't know. Like she's not going to decline in that area, but she could grow more tumors, and they told us they were non-cancerous. but that they could still cause problems like seizures. And if her Sega wasn't in, if it was in a different spot, if it were blocking the ventricles, then I mean that could end up killing her. But thankfully, they said if you're going to have a brain tumor, it's in the best spot for it. Um, so we, I was so overwhelmed there though because it affects so much of the body. It wasn't just like one thing; it was like all
Yeah.
these things and all these things that I was so scared that would happen to my little girl, even like tumors that people get under their fingernails. And I saw the pictures and thought, that is going to be so painful. And if she gets these tumors all over her face when, when she's a teenager and acne, kids are going to make fun of her. It was really scary at first. But I pretty quickly, I posted on Facebook an update because everyone was praying for us and waiting to hear what was going on. And somebody commented on my post, or maybe they messaged me saying, "Oh my gosh, I just met someone whose child has this disease like yesterday or something." So I like
Wow.
they met at a soccer game, and so she put me in touch with her, and she was the first TSC mom I was able to talk to, and it was just I, I just had this longing to really talk to other people whose kids were going through it or, adults that were going
Yeah.
through it so that I could have some kind of idea of what life was going to be like for her. But um, it's really different for everybody. It's such a huge
Yeah.
spectrum.
And
Um,
I feel like it must be so overwhelming, especially when it's like a rare disease that like medicine is still trying to figure it out. Like, I mean, I've worked with kids where like they're the only ones that survived birth. Like doctors didn't think that they would survive, but because medicine has gotten so good that like these kids that used to not even survive childbirth are, and yeah, they might have like extensive support needs, but like they're living, like they're crawling, they're walking, they're communicating, like they're um it's like they're there. So it's interesting to see that side. I've talked about the medical field a lot of just like the ableism in it of like, doctors are trained to treat people. Like they're trained to make things better or make things healthy, whatever in quotations, whatever healthy might be for them. And to have something, I mean, I don't even know when was TSC like start founded? Like when was the first person diagnosed?
I don't know. I remember researching it, and I think it was called something else like Bournesville disease or something like that many years ago. I think it was discovered probably 100 years ago or something. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But I did when we were at the hospital. There was a nurse practitioner who worked with the neurologist, and she was the best. She came in and said like she was just had a good bedside manner and was really sweet.
Yeah.
And she said, you should go to the TSC Alliance website. And so I went there and I could look up how it affects the brain and the kidneys and all these different things, which was overwhelming at first. Like, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
can't handle this. But then I just decided, okay, I'm just going to focus on what I need to right now, getting her seizures under control, and we'll figure out what to do about her blood pressure because of her kidneys. And I'm not going to worry about all the other things that could happen. But we were lucky that we went to a hospital that knew about the TSC Alliance and told us where to go to look it up. And she said, don't Google, and if you go to any other website, Mayo Clinic is the best, but don't trust
Yeah.
anybody.
I feel
And
like that's a
so
very common thing. People are like, just don't Google. Like I've had many doctors just be like, don't Google it. Like it's
yeah,
you're gonna get the stories that just like aren't accurate, aren't the average. Like just don't. They're like if you have a question, go to like a trusted medical professional and talk to them, have a conversation, like talk to other people. So that's awesome that somebody knew to connect you to TSC. As somebody who worked in the deaf-blind field, we part of our initiative was to find the people who are deaf-blind, and it was really focusing on educating teachers and doctors and nurses and any staff that like what deaf blindness is, because a lot of people think it means you have no vision and no hearing, but it could be any sort of lower vision and lower hearing. Like that combination has you with the diagnosis of deaf blindness. And so you can get all these services because having both of those needing support, it messes with a lot of other like sensories, like vestibular and this other one that I always forget the name of
Yeah.
when I'm randomly talking on the spot about this. But it was like how many times we had to just like explain what it was and be like, you know, like the and that and deaf blindness has like Helen Keller. We have like a huge famous person who had that disability, yet so many people don't even like get that official diagnosis because they're like, I don't know, I can drive a car. Why does it matter? And it's like, no, you
Yeah.
can get like services, man.
Yeah. Well, Chloe
Um,
actually she has eye problems and ear problems. But and I don't think, well, the eye, she has a tumor in one of her eyes, but it hasn't, I mean, she has she's farsighted, and I don't know if TSC has really affected her seeing at all, but we have to go to the ophthalmologist every other year, I think, or every year. I don't know. It gets confusing because she
yeah.
sees so many
Oh, I'm
doctors.
sure. Well, you might even qualify for deaf-blind services if she has vision and hearing support. I mean, that's already, but here,
She
let me add on another person for
no,
you to come check out.
but she does fine with her glasses, and we found out a couple years after diagnosis. Oh, an alarm going off. Whoops. um, that she has high frequency hearing loss, which could be another genetic mutation, but
Yeah,
it's not so bad. She can't hear certain things like a thermometer beeping when it's done. So,
yeah.
but
So you
anyway.
said it's genetic. So does that mean like you or your husband had to have like a recessive gene to like pass this on? Or like did you both have to have a recessive gene for her to get this?
No, it's actually a dominant gene that causes it, and neither one of us have it. We were tested, or, well, I was tested, but that's another thing I was going to say about research and how far science has come because when we were in the hospital that first time, we met with a geneticist. Oh my gosh, that man was the worst. He was like painting the scariest picture
Oh
for us,
no.
It's like, calm down, buddy.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
but he said we're going to take some blood and test it, and we'll get back to you in about 6 weeks. Because I think I can't remember. At some point, they discovered there was the one gene that could cause it, and then they discovered there was another one. So it's the TSC1 and TSC2 genes that cause it if you have a mutation or a deletion. And I waited by my phone for those 6 weeks. Like I always had my ringer on at work and had my phone with me. And I told my boss, like, if I have to step away for a minute or something, just forgive me because I've been waiting for this phone call. And it never came, never
Oh
came,
my
never
gosh.
came. Talked to the geneticist a few times, and they couldn't find anything. So it actually took 7 years before they were able to find her mutations.
Wow.
And so she had, I think it's called like contiguous gene syndrome or something like that, where I don't think I've even mentioned her kidney disease to you. kidneys can be affected with TSC, but
You
the
were saying
amount
she
of
had cysts, right?
yeah, it can cause cysts or tumors on the kidneys. Her kidneys were completely covered in cysts when she was little, and that's what made her blood pressure so high. Um, I'm kind of going off topic here a little bit, but um, we took her to a TSC clinic in Cincinnati 6 months after she was diagnosed with TSC because I kept asking the neurologist questions like, is this a tuber or is it a Sega or is it the other kind, a Sen tumor? What? And he didn't know how to answer my questions, so he said, I really think you should take her to a specialty TSC clinic. So I did research and talked to people and everybody. It was between like Boston and Cincinnati. So we went to Cincinnati Children's and she was seen there for a few years. But when we saw the nephrologist there and he did a scan of her kidneys, he said, unfortunately, she has another disease called polycystic kidney disease. So it was a large mutation on chromosome 16. The TSC2 and PKD1 genes are right next to each other. So there was a deletion of genes there, and that's why she has the diseases. But it took 7 years to figure out to
Wow.
find the genetic cause. She had the clinical diagnoses, but we didn't have the genetics, and we couldn't test myself, my husband, my son until we had her results back. Um, but research has come such a long way, and when one of the reasons why I really wanted to find her mutations, well, obviously, so we can make sure that somebody else in the family doesn't have it. Because, like, if my husband or I had it, our siblings could have it, our parents could have it, and not
Yeah.
know. Some people go their whole lives and don't know that they have it. Some people are diagnosed. Like, there was this one guy I talked to who was diagnosed in his 40s, I think, because he got into a motorcycle accident and it affected his kidneys and they found a tumor.
Wow.
Um, and then, and his daughter had already been diagnosed with it like 20 years before that. So then they were like, oh,
Is it
okay.
more common to get it like genetically? Like if someone has it, like it's more likely that the next, like if they have a child that they'll have it?
The 50-50 chance with the dominant gene. So yeah, if Chloe has children, then there's a 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
Uh, and there's another family that we've met um, through the alliance that the dad has it and the three kids all have it. And um, they think uh, they think that it could be a little more severe with each generation. Um, so even though Chloe is mildly affected, well, I consider it mildly affected. Um, she could have a child who, has severe developmental delays and, can't walk or talk or has, lots of challenges. So, um, but the other reason I was going to say, other than having her tested so that we could test the rest of the family, is if she wants to do IVF one day so that they can just use her eggs that don't have the diseases, they would have to know the mutations to
Mhm.
look for them. So it took 7 years, and we finally got it. I think it was actually discovered from a study she was in. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Uh, so now,
So,
if she wants to have a baby one day, she can go that route. If IVF is even available at that point.
yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so yeah, but then
Hopefully it still will be.
the science, back to the science stuff. I don't know if it was in like 2010. It was a couple years before Chloe was able to start on that drug called everolimus. Um, they had discovered that that would help with tumors, and then with TSC tumors, and then they realized from Chloe that it would help with the cysts on the kidneys too, which was kind of cool. You know,
Yeah.
wasn't cool that she was a guinea pig, but it's
Yeah. My dad
cool.
actually takes those chemo pills and he's still here. So
The same
with
ones or no?
I don't know how many there are, but 2012 was when he had pancreatic cancer, like stage 4. And it was like kind of surprising that he survived. And yeah, and now he takes them every month. I'm pretty sure he's still I mean, yeah, it's been over 10 years. Oh my gosh.
My grandmother died from pancreatic cancer when I
A
was
lot
in
of people do.
sixth grade, I think. So, yeah, I mean, and now people survive it.
And it's a
And
fast one because you don't know you don't really have symptoms until you're pretty far along uh
yeah,
with
glad he's
those
doing
tumors.
well.
But those
Glad
chemo
he's doing
pills have like kept it not growing. There's like a little tumor left, but it kind of just sits there and doesn't grow because he takes these chemo pills. So that's so cool that we're connecting
well.
over chemo.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
and it was a big decision to put her on it because they said if she goes on it, she really should stay on it the rest of her life. It's an immune suppressant, so she could get sick more often than others. So we've always been extra careful, and um, she
threw a
doesn't
pandemic
actually.
at you.
Oh gosh, yeah, that was scary.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, science has come a long way. You know, the only option for some people for many years was just to have brain surgery for the tumors, but now a lot of people are able to take the medication. It doesn't
yeah,
work for everybody, but for some it does. And now we know it helps with other things. And Chloe has never developed um, tumors in her kidneys or anywhere else yet. So it probably has, put that off, prevented those from growing. So we're so
yeah,
thankful for that. And that's all because of the TSC Alliance and the research they do. And
yeah. Is there anything else you want to share about the TSC Alliance?
oh, I could talk about them all day long. I mean, I'm just so grateful for all the work they do. They have a staff of about 24 people who some of them work remotely, and they're based in Maryland, and they we go to I'm losing my train of thought here. Got a little ADHD. Um, we go to Washington D.C. Well, I've gone I think 4 years, but every March they do this thing called March on the Hill, and about 100 of us gather in D.C. And we go meet with all of our representatives and senators and share our stories. We ask people in our communities to write letters about their family members with the disease so we can share it with them, and we ask for funding for research. So they're going to go do that beginning of March. I'm not
Nice.
going this year, but that's a big that's a big source of the money we get for research. So I really hope we're able to keep getting that.
Yeah.
Um, and then they do fundraisers. We do walks around the country once a year, usually in April and May. It's called Step Forward to Cure TSC. And we are North Carolina and South Carolina communities merged into one. So we rotate the walks, doing them in South Carolina and North Carolina. So the next one we're doing is May 3rd in Clemens, North Carolina. And just people can participate from home, and just go on to the website and join a team, or just walk individually and walk, ride bikes, run, do whatever they want, ask people to donate. And we make a lot of money that way. They also do Comedy for a Cure every year in LA, and we have some. I think that's coming up. Yeah, that's coming up really soon.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then little fundraisers that we do, like we um, we did a fundraiser at a restaurant one time here, where they gave a portion of their profits to the Alliance that night. We're just always looking for creative ways to raise awareness and raise money because we
Yeah.
still don't have a cure. We have a lot of great treatments now, and they know a lot more about TSC now than they did even 15 years
Yeah.
ago when Chloe was diagnosed. But um, still
Yeah.
need to find a cure.
Yeah, it seems so hard because there's just such just like a spectrum with anything of like the severity of it, the like where it's happening, if there's like multiple disabilities. Like I feel like this is pretty common in a lot of the rare disabilities that I know about, that it's like to find a cure, like sometimes it's like a cure for like a big portion of it, because even like where it is like in their genes, it could look different on like multiple people, even though it's like the same genetic mutation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, Lastly, do you have any advice for parents who might be getting a new diagnosis of a rare disease?
Um, just find the best doctors, the ones who are experts in the field. Thankfully, with the TSC Alliance, they have on their website now, they have a list of all the different TSC clinics in the country. And you can also go on the website and find, like, if you're newly diagnosed and you want to talk to someone in your state, you can go online and find out who that person is and contact them, and then they can help you. But
Yeah.
I would just say, get plugged in with the community of whatever that rare disease is. Um, find out who the best doctors are and go to them. Um, yeah.
Yeah, thankfully technology has come such a long way that we can connect with people all over the world with who might share this diagnosis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all this information. I don't know if you want to do a Mystic Cats tarot card reading, but I'm assuming if you've listened to some other episodes, I usually end my episode with a tarot card reading.
Okay.
Would you like to do this?
Sure.
I kind of forgot to ask you over email.
How about the next 4 years? How are they going to go?
The next 4 years. Okay, let's shuffle. You tell me when to stop.
Okay, stop.
Okay. We got, ooh, the Knight of Cups. That looks like a
Okay.
that looks like a pretty happy, successful cat. Okay, let's see.
Okay.
The cups is water, and it's like emotion, intuition, nurture, which I mean, I'm feeling a lot of like, look at, I don't know. That okay, so for the people listening, the cat is like holding this frog cup up in the air with two flags. This looks like a celebratory thing. So I'm
Okay.
gonna look and see what my little book of things says, because this also gives me more information. Knight of Cups, you are in touch with your emotions and know how to charm others. Listen to your intuition when you make your next decision.
Okay.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Thank goodness, because I feel so bad whenever it's not a positive one. I'm like,
I
I'm
know.
sorry. The card decided it wasn't me.
Gosh. Yeah.
Well, so follow your intuition for the next 4 years.
All right. I will.
And then you'll have to check back in with me and I'll give you a new card for the following 4 years.
Okay. Great. Sounds good.
Well, thank you so much for all of this. I'm gonna I'll maybe link like the TSC Alliance in the show notes. And then do you
Okay.
want me to put maybe your email address if people want to connect with you?
Sure. That's fine. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for being on my show today.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for joining again. Um, if you want to reach out to Amy, her email will be in the show notes along with the website to learn more about TSC. Have a great day. Inclusion starts with you, and I just want to help. Bye.